Hi guys, welcome to today's video. This is kind of a fun one. It's a little bit of a brain teaser, but it's how to start an online business even with no money in the bank. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Johnson, and I scaled a content agency to multi-six figures in its first year. I now get the privilege of mentoring other writers in how to build profitable online businesses. And prior to my own entrepreneurial journey, I was in corporate doing content strategy for global brands and hiring writers and mentoring them. And so I kind of have seen all facets of this world. And another interesting part about this, it brought me down memory lane because when I first started my content writing business, this is a winding path of my entrepreneurial journey, but I'll keep it short. But my first foray into entrepreneurship wasn't even content writing. It was more of like health coaching. And so I actually had gone into some business debt for that. So I was starting with like less than zero money in the bank. And so I am speaking from full experience here, how to do it, what I would have done differently. Hopefully it gets you where you want to go quickly as well. But here's a few simple steps. Obviously, there's a million ways to do this and your path will look different than anyone else's. But if I had to distill it into just a few simple steps that you could take away from today's video, then I hope this serves you. Okay, so the first step is to create a few writing samples. And this is not something that you have to do on a fancy website. This is not something that you have to pay someone to design. In fact, one of the things that I love about content writing as an online business is that it doesn't have a ton of startup or overhead costs. Like you can literally just open up your computer, assuming you have a computer, that's why you're watching this, and start writing your first writing samples. All right. So whether it's in Word, whether it's in Google Doc, whether it is on a notepad, get those writing samples out. Maybe consider a few different kinds, right? There's no one way to do it. You could do a blog, you could do email, you could do social media. If there's like an ebook or a webinar you worked on, like get some samples together, all right? Because what those samples will do is they will enable you to demonstrate your expertise when you pitch potential brands, right? And when you pitch potential brands and they hire you is when you will get money to start to grow your online business from scratch. The other thing that they do is they show your voice. They show that you can write in different formats. So if someone says, hey, can you write social media? You'll have it ready to go, right? If another person says, I need help with some web copy or emails, you have that ready to go. So you can do a whole mix of them. Don't overthink it, but just get a few together to show that you can write. Another thing I think even energetically this does is it makes you feel ready for those first clients. Because if you're at a networking event and you introduce yourself and say you're open for freelance content work or you're a copywriter, but you don't have any samples to show anyone, when you like follow up via email after, you're going to kind of block that opportunity, even if it's subconscious, right? Because you're not truly ready for it. So I say spend some time, block it off on the calendar and get those first samples created. And that will really serve you mindset wise to feel truly ready. And then practically you will literally be ready when someone talks to you, right? And wants to hire you. So that's step number one, get a few writing samples together. Step number two is to assemble them in some kind of portfolio or polish them into something you'd be proud to send. So one thing that I teach in my program, Content Business Blueprint, week by week is how to build this beautiful portfolio. And as students are going through the course, learning to write and learning how to build a business, they're creating writing samples that they're putting in a portfolio. So when the program's done, they have this amazing piece to sell their value and go and get clients. And you can start that process as well, though. So whether it's a simple portfolio website that maybe you build on Squarespace, whether it's a PDF that you design in PowerPoint, like I like to provide a template for my students to use that's drag and drop and beautiful and easy to just pull things into. But you can absolutely create your own makeshift version, right? Like you can even just put things in a Word or Google Doc and just make sure that the fonts are beautiful and consistent and everything's well done. And that is going to really support you in being able to showcase your work. So as soon as you pitch someone, you will have something that you can send to them, right? And it's not just like scribbled on this notepad or halfway done. You really want to get it into this polished form where it looks like, if not a portfolio, you at least have writing samples. And then when you follow up with someone via email, you can say, it was so nice to talk with you. I've attached a few writing samples. Please let me know if you'd like to discuss further, something like that, right? Step number 3. So far you haven't paid for a graphic designer, a website, you haven't gone and hired out any advertisements or services. You literally built your writing samples. You made a beautiful portfolio or something close. And then step number 3 is to go out and pitch. And I know that everyone wants to make it more complicated than this. And I think that's partly because it feels safer in the beginning to kind of tinker behind a website or get everything just right, versus actually going out and pitching clients. But it's free to pitch clients in content writing. And the chances are, think of all the millions of brands in the world, and they all have so much content to create. They have blogs and emails and social media and podcasts and videos and web pages and sales pages and all the things, right? So the chances, even in your own hometown, of that doctor's office down the street or that coffee shop down the street or that gym or that salon wanting help is so high, let alone every brand that you can find online. All right. And so get out there and actually go and start to pitch and to say, I'm a content writer, would love to offer you, a free sample, or, I've attached my samples. Please let me know if you're in need of any services. Again, you can go to an old-fashioned networking event. There's so many ways to get yourself out there and in front of your prospective clients. And that is what is really going to help you start to get your first work, which leads to your first revenue, right? So let's say you charge $50 an hour, even per week. That would be, if you booked full, that'd be $4,000 a week, right? So imagine once you start charging more or packaging your services or your rates or building a team. But all of a sudden, what's going to happen is you're then going to have the money to go and invest in all the other fancy things and bells and whistles, right? Like, then you can go work on your logo. Then you can go work on your graphic design and your brand colors or your brand guide. But you really don't need to do that right away. It can be as simple as creating writing samples, building some kind of portfolio or polishing the samples into something you're proud to send, and going and reaching out and getting your first prospective clients, right? That's like literally, if I could distill it down to the simplest things, that's what I would say. And that's honestly the most important work. So in the beginning, there's this tendency to want to do all these other fancy things. But what I always think of it like is there's 2 tracks. You're either writing for clients you do have in the beginning, or you're going and filling your time. If you don't have work to write on, go out and get your first clients, right? And then get that writing, because the writing means revenue. So those are a few steps that I would use if I had no money in the bank. And honestly, the steps I did use to go and get those first clients. And from there, you can increase your hours with the clients. You can get them on a recurring basis. You can start to fine tune the kinds of clients you want to work with, but you'll start bringing in capital that you can work with and use to build a profitable business that gives you that location, schedule, creative, and financial freedom. And you'll have done it even starting from scratch, right? Even starting with nothing in the bank, even starting if you're working another job or this is something you do on the weekends or evenings. This is kind of a way you can begin it without having to invest anything else into it, with nothing to lose, right? Obviously, there's ways to accelerate the process and to bring on a mentor if that helps you avoid the trial and error of everything. But I'll share a content writer starter kit in the description below, and a link to my program if you're interested. But otherwise, keep it simple. Go out there, try these first steps, get started, just get yourself out there, and you may be surprised how much money you could start to generate as a result. All right, I'm rooting for you. I believe in you. I hope this supports you. Would love to hear in the comments if it does, or if you have any questions based on this. I will respond to them personally. Talk soon.